All right, if you're planning to purchase a home or some sort of property here in Mission, you need to watch this video. I'm going to go over everything you need to know so that you can make an educated and informed decision about the real estate market. But more importantly, I want to show you some tools that are super helpful, and I'm not seeing it anywhere, these types of tools, and nobody's talking about it. And so I want to show you that. But then if you're also thinking about selling here, unfortunate news flash, if you haven't heard already, prices are going down, but there is an opportunity window for you still in 2026 to take advantage of what typically happens in the market. So I want to show you that as well. But first off, I want to show you here is basically median home sale prices in the last 5 years here. It should come as no surprise that things are decreasing, right? We've seen that every single city in the Fraser Valley. Like I cover all of these cities here, and the exact same thing is happening everywhere. It should come as no surprise, right? And so even if we look at over the 5-year trend, we can see that there was the 2022, late 2021, early 2022 kind of COVID push, and then now we can kind of see it's been going downwards, right? And so that should come as no surprise. And then sales, right? So let me just zoom back into 5 years here. It's interesting because every single year the exact same thing happens, right? The trends do. You know, obviously I can't say it happens exactly, but the trends are the same. And so with those types of trends that we can understand, we can predict what's going to happen here. And so right now, you know, we've hit the beginning portion of 2026, right? Sales have gone up. It's typically what happens. You can kind of see it every single year, right? Sales go up, sales go up. And then basically when summertime hits, sales tend to decrease, right? And then there's that October, September push where people are back from holidays and they want to go purchase a home before the winter flies. And so for you sellers, this is what I was talking about, and we're going to talk about more, is that this is where the opportunity lies. So if your home is on the market and there's nothing happening, well, two things it could be. Obviously, it's same price, but then the other one is just buyers aren't out there right now, not as busy as they usually are. And so we wait for September or October when things typically get a little busier. And so right now, sales are kind of, they're following the trends, right? So there's nothing crazy to report there. New listings, kind of the exact same thing. What we see here is a lot less new listings in July when compared to other months here, right? So July was 155, or July there was actually a peak in 2024, and then July. And so all that to say, there is less new listings hitting the market. And what we're probably going to see here come over the next month or two is that we're going to see the little uptick of new listings hitting the market. So if you're a buyer right now and you're like, man, there's nothing on the market, what do I do? Well, you can typically wait until September, October when there's more listings that hit the market. Or the other option is you just wait for one of these properties that have been on the market for a long time. The sellers get fed up, and then you're just like, okay, well, here's an offer. And then, you know, they more or less accept it, right? So active listings, as you can see here in Mission, let's just go over the overall 25-year trend here. 525 we were peaking at. And so we're kind of hitting that post-2008 levels here of inventory. And so if you're a seller right now and you're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna put my house on the market, well, location's obviously the big one, but the condition of the home, what I always tell my sellers is that you need to fix everything that's broken so that when people walk into the property, they don't think that your home is not well taken care of, right? That's at a minimum, right? And then there's other upgrades that you can, you know, decide if it's worth repairing or upgrading to. More or less, you want to make sure your home stands out well. And then the other thing is just obviously pricing, right? Everybody thinks their home is worth $2 million, and the unfortunate reality is that there's a lot of people on the market right now that their homes are just like, okay, well, you need to decrease your price substantially, otherwise it's just going to sit here. And not to say new buyers won't come to the market, right? Every single month, new buyers are coming to the market. It's just they most likely have an educated realtor with them. And it's like, oh, well, this is the actives. These are the solds. This is what this property should be worth. And so you're not fooling anybody. Let's just put it that way. Now comes the next one, sales to active listings ratio. And so this is a ratio between the actives and these sales, or the sales, I should say. And so every time that there's the same amount of actives or more actives comparative to the sales, it becomes more of a buyer's market. And typically what happens is that the more months over months that it's a buyer market, the more times prices have to decrease because essentially it needs to balance itself out. And so right now, there's a lot of properties sitting in the market that the buyers aren't interested in. And so it's becoming more and more of a buyer's market. And when it comes to balanced market, the board says 12 to 20% is a balanced market, and anything over 20% is a seller's market, where there's just the same amount of goods, or there's more people chasing the same amount of goods, which then increases the purchase price of most homes out there. Days on market, this is always an interesting one. Let me just zoom back in for five year. Everybody asks me, well, how long does it take to home for sale? Well, in a typical market right now, it's fluctuating, right? And so you can see here, in the wintertime, it's typically a lot higher, but right now we're sitting about a month. So if your house is on the market 2 weeks, nothing has happened, well, that's kind of standard, right? Right now it's taking about just over a month. And then the percentage of original price, this is always the interesting one for buyers, right? If you are a buyer and you're wondering, what can I offer on this property that's reasonable? Well, right now you can expect 5.6% off the original price. So that's $1 million home, which obviously you can buy a house here in Mission for $1 million. That's about $56,000 off the price, right? This is the average, or the median, I should say. And so it could be more, it could be less, but that's essentially what's going on here. And so that is what's happening here as a whole. And so now I want to break down into the condo, the detached, and the townhome market, again, just to show you what's happening here, and so that you can make an educated decision going forward. And so right now, detached, we're sitting at 970 or 934, townhome 630, apartments 425. It's actually interesting. Apartments, I saw the stacks. I did an Abbotsford report here. Apartments are actually more expensive in Mission than Abbotsford. But in all reality, it's just there's a bigger bigger supply, I should say, of older townhomes in Abbotsford. So keep that in mind. But yeah, you can see here, detached homes, they went down 8.2% over the last year. Townhomes down 3.9, apartments down 3.7. And so everything is decreasing. You can kind of see here that they're, basically ever since 2023, prices have decreased, right? So just something to keep in mind. And I'm most likely going to see this happen for the next, 6 to 12 months is my kind of guess. Definitely in the end of 2026, we're going to see continued decreases. 2027, we're most likely going to see a slight uptick during the spring, because that's just when lots of activity happens. And then I would say net result is most likely going to be a negative, maybe a couple percent. And so that's big picture stuff. Sales here, as you can see, sales, the detached market have gone up here, and we're most likely going to see it dip a little bit, and then we're going to have that fall kind of push. The condo and townhome market, there's not too many condos actually in Mission. So you can actually see here, one sold, then 4, then 3. And so it can be quite volatile, but typically speaking, during the summer months, less sales happen. And so if you have a listing in any of those segments there, just expect less activity here. New listings, kind of same thing. We've reached that initial push, and now there's just going to be less new listings hitting the market. And so if you're, again, thinking about buying a property here, you're going to have less options essentially here in Mission. Active listings, again, it's always interesting to see the 25-year trend on this one. The detached market, it's definitely not an all-time high, but it's definitely higher, right? So you got more competition in the detached market. Townhomes and condos, looks like we have a bit of a push here in 2026. So there's a lot more basically inventory than a long time, ever since really 2008. So basically all that means, if you're selling your condo or your detached or your townhome, you need to be priced right. Otherwise, you're just going to sit on the market, because buyers aren't really doing much right now. I'm telling all my buyers, you can wait. Just wait till you find something that you really like, and prices are most likely going to continue to go downwards. So there's no rush, right? This is the sales to active listings ratio. And so right now, detached homes are still moving here in Mission, which is interesting, because there's some other markets that aren't moving as much as Mission right now. Townhomes and apartments, they're pretty stagnant right now. Let me just zoom in here for the 5-year trend. And basically all that means is that there's less buyers chasing, townhomes and apartments in Mission, and more of them are going after detached. So again, if you have a detached, there's more opportunities for you, because more people are going for those. If you have a townhome or an apartment, not really much going on there. Days on market, right? This is actually kind of interesting, because there was less people going for apartments and townhomes, but apartments are moving pretty quick. Townhomes here, they're on 40 days, and then the detached back to 32 days. And so expect this type of time, right? It could be longer, it could be shorter, it just depends on your marketing strategy, right? It's so important to have a strategy. And so it just depends on what you want to do. Percentage of original price. This is always an interesting one, right? Again, I think it was like 95% or something overall, which you can get about 5% off. And so right now, detached, you're looking at almost the most. Apartments and detached seem to be the most decrease you can get there. So again, this is based on percentage wise. So if you're looking at a $500,000 townhome, right, you're looking at almost 4%. What is that, 20 grand? 20 grand off. So that's the normal, what's happening here. And so essentially, that's what's all happening here. I want to make it real quick, real simple. If I went too fast, you can literally go to this website, links in the description. You can literally check out all the other websites here. You can compare them, which is even cool, right? So if you wanted to compare Abbotsford admissions, detached homes, and what's going on here, you can literally see all sorts of different data. And if you don't know what this data means, there's a legend here. You can go check that out. But I do want to show you those real estate tools, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. So obviously this is the first tool right here we're looking at is the graph. It lives on my website. There's no email to sign up for. There's no, behind closed doors, so to speak. You can literally use it whenever you want. And if you want reports sent to you on a monthly basis, you can literally just select the markets that you're interested in, and then you can download them so you get them instantly. And then after that, I'll just send it to you on a monthly basis. Now, if you really want to see what those tools look like, what's not tools, the graph, sorry, the chart. Let me just go to mission here. You can see how many homes have sold, the active listings, how it compares year over year, month over month. You can kind of see the HPI price, right, where things are going. And so right now, all of them are negative across the board. Days on market, sales versus original price, just really like simple things that you as a buyer or a seller are interested in. And then you can kind of see the 25-year trend here, right? Because a lot of people, they just say, oh, well, I bought here and it should be worth more. It's like, well, no, you bought here and it's actually less, right? And so it's just a good visual tool to help educate you, because the last thing you want to do is put your home on the market and just not to sell, right? And so again, you can download those reports here. Now, the other thing that I want to show you here real quick before I get into the tool for your first-time home buyers is a home evaluation tool. Super cool, super easy, super accurate. I've used this thing hundreds of times. I'm always blown away how accurate it is. And so you literally just put your address in, your phone number, your email, all that fun stuff. Full transparency. Myself and my business partner, Clark, will be reaching out to you. And it's really just to see if you need any help. If you don't, we'll go on our way. It's not a big deal. But you can literally find out your home evaluation here in a matter of seconds, right? So you put it in there. Thinking about selling your home, you put your address in here. You can find it out instantly. Or if you're thinking about buying a home, you're like, hey, how much could this fetch? Obviously, you have the graph here to tell you how much you can expect to get off. But what does this, this system here, this tool, think it's worth? Now, the last tool that I want to show you here is True Cost Calculator. This is the one that lenders and mortgage brokers just don't explain, or they just don't bring to light. And so real quick, there's multiple things you can do on this tool. Thinking about selling your house, you can figure out how much it's going to cost you to sell your house, how much money you'd have left over. Thinking about buying a home, all the costs associated to buying a home, right? So there's all that fun stuff. Own tab, this is one, again, if you haven't owned a home as a first-time home buyer, you probably don't know what is associated or the costs associated to owning a home. And so in here, it breaks down all the costs that are associated. You just got to fill it out. If you need help with that, you can literally just message me. I live in Mission, and so I can help you out. It's not a problem. Or you can go to realtor.ca. A lot of times they have, more information on there. And then the most important one of them all is the affordability tab. And so this is where the lifestyle cost doesn't get talked about as much, especially by brokers and lenders. They will determine how much you can afford to, own or afford to pay for on a mortgage payment based on your income, but it's not based off your lifestyle. And so I literally just had this with a client last week. They got it pre-approved. We put the numbers in what the broker said that they could afford, and then we put all their numbers in as far as their lifestyle costs, right? So their fixed payments, their variable payments, right? Gas, dining out, groceries, debt payments, all that stuff. And it was a negative here. So if they were to purchase a home that the lender said that they could afford, they'd be losing money every month. And so it's just something that actually annoys me that's not being talked about enough. So this tool here helps you educate yourself so that you can be confident and comfortable buying that home, knowing that, hey, I can afford this. Or you know what? Hey, I can afford this. My lifestyle's got to change a little bit. But if you at least understand that going forward and purchasing something, well, then that's okay, because you're going to have to adjust your lifestyle anyways. And so That's that tool there. Now, if you are going and checking out open houses, going to homes, I want to encourage you to watch this video right here. It's how to spot a bad house in 60 seconds, where I literally go over everything that you should be looking out for when you're going to see these homes, going to see these properties. So go check that one out. But as always, I appreciate you watching, sticking around with me, and I'll see you in the next one.